Great, thank you, Alicia. Thank you everyone for joining us for By the Numbers. My name is Kevin Bauman. I am very pleased to be joined by Amanda Scott, our Senior Director of Market Management. Amanda, I'll let you say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Amanda, we might have you on mute.
I don't think I'm on mute. Can you hear me?
Okay, perfect. So, sorry, that was on my end. I was on mute. So, yes, very pleased to be joined with Amanda Scott. My name is Kevin Bauman. I'm the Director of Philanthropic Initiatives, and we are very thrilled to present a very data-intensive presentation this afternoon. You may have seen our data warning as you joined early today, and By the Numbers will be presented, as you might suspect, by the numbers. And you will be privy to a lot of information about what percentage of alumni visit the website, how often do they visit, when do they visit, how do we capitalize on those visits, and really what you can use your website for in ways that you may not be using your website today. So with that, maybe I can turn it over to Amanda to talk a little bit about what we're going to learn today.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today, we want to make sure that we dig into a couple of different items. First, we want to make sure that we cover how to use your website as an alumni solicitation tool. And then we also want to talk about how you can improve your website so that you can reach not only your annual fund donors, but also your major and planned giving donors as well. So it's both looking at the data of understanding and then also looking at how to improve that as a channel for solicitations. So with that, we want to talk to you about a little bit about marketing automation today. Just want to give you a teaser here at the beginning of the presentation because Kevin's going to dig heavy into our data stats, but a lot of them are based off of a marketing automation tool, which is our way of communicating and soliciting donors. And so you will see with the screen that we have the ability to do change over images, pop-ups, and tracking to identify the individual who is on your website. And so why we show you that here at the beginning is so that you understand where we're pulling the fact from. It's a lot deeper than just Google Analytics. It's digging into the actual individuals and what communications have been shared with them and how they're interacting with the website.
Amanda, that's great. And for anyone who may be hearing marketing automation for the first time, marketing automation is actually fairly common in the commercial space. And so you may be, let's talk about some of our favorite streaming services. And when you watch a video or a movie and you log in the next time to that streaming service and it says, because you watched this, we recommend that you would enjoy this movie or video. Or maybe it's a commercial enterprise that is tracking your purchases online. And because you bought this tea kettle, we're going to recommend that you purchase this tea that goes perfectly with that. That is really marketing automation at its finest. And so what we're going to talk about today is the ability to leverage your website to do even more than just simply display stagnant messages, but it's the ability to, rather than display a movie recommendation or a recommendation on a cup of tea, it's the ability to display messaging in real time on your website to take advantage of all of the visits that we're going to describe today. And so your advantage as you go through today is really going to be not only just the website and not only understanding that alumni are actively engaging the institution online, but how do we take advantage of those visits and really make the most of this new type of solicitation channel. Now we've got a little bit of data context that might be helpful for the team. So as we go into the data set, I am a data guy at heart. I hope for everyone tuning in, you are a data person because we are going to be reviewing a lot of data today. And so it's probably helpful to note a couple of key attributes for the data that we're going to show today. First, it's important to note that the data that we compiled is compiled from websites where Capture has been tracking for a year or more. And it's that time and it's that length that allows us to provide the insights about alumni behaviors over a sustained period of time. So know that this is based off of tracking that has been done for a year or more. The other aspect that's really important to note is that we're going to be talking about an alumni audience. And I know everyone tuning in may have different definitions of what an alum may be. The definition that we're going to use today is someone who graduated from the institution and has a grad year associated with their record. So just know that friends and other custom segments, maybe it's parents, maybe it's another custom segment that you might be tracking. All of those segments you can track online. But for the sake of everyone tuning in today, we thought we would use the common language of a graduate from the institution.
So Kevin,
yes.
so Kevin, one thing that people might not know about Kevin, and I'm going to tell a little story on him here, is that Kevin teaches himself how to code at night and how to do data tables in very extravagant ways. So I think you're in for a treat because he's going to show us the numbers now behind alumni visits online.
I love it. And Amanda, thank you for giving me the floor to this, because you know that this is one of my favorite things is to talk about the data numbers. So really exciting. Okay, so here's your data warning. We're about to get really data heavy. Here we go. So your website every year reaches 1 in 5 alumni. So 20% of the entire institution's alumni base is active with the institution online. And so if we explain the chart that you see in front of you, we're going to start on the far right, which I know might be a little bit abnormal, but on the far right, you'll see that 20% number. And then as you look to your left, you'll see breakouts by graduate decade. So 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that sort of thing. And so it's important to note that class sizes are generally getting bigger for institutions. And so this is a percentage of the entire grad decade as identified online. And so it's important to note that most institutions are graduating bigger classes than they have previously. And so some of those absolute values are going to be just a little bit different. But it's also really important to note that about half of the alumni that we track today graduated before 1950. So one of the common misconceptions that I think most people have is that the website is really just engaging our younger alumni, or maybe more of a tech savvy audience. And what the data shows is that about half of all of the visitors that we've identified and are tracking actively on institutions' websites graduated before 1980 and tend to be an older audience. You can think of these as maybe empty nesters who now have the time to reconnect with the institution, maybe enjoying those glory days. But you'll see later on that that's a very important aspect, is to understand that your website is engaging a very broad audience when it comes to messaging. And I should also mention, it also kind of makes sense. So for decades, we've been telling alumni that if they want to know the score to an athletics game, you can check our athletics website. Or if you want to register for an event, go to the alumni page to register for that event. Or if you'd love to know what's happening at the College of Business, go to the College of Business page. Or maybe it's just as broad as saying what activity is going on campus, visit the news page. Maybe you're sending out an e-newsletter, and all of those articles that you're linking to in that e-newsletter, those landing pages live on your website. So it makes sense that a very broad selection of our alumni base is actively engaged with the institution, simply because we've taught them to do that for so many years. Now, another common misconception is that most individuals think that alumni visiting the website are going to give anyway. And it very well could be that if I come to the website, I'm more likely to give, and that is the case. But it's not a given that simply because they show up online that a gift is going to be made. As a matter of fact, what we know right now is that 75% of alumni visiting your website have not given to the current campaign this fiscal year. And so the chart that you see on the bottom left, let's walk through that one first. The chart that you see on the bottom left shows that the fiscal year 19 campaign, 23% of alumni visiting your website have already given to the campaign this fiscal year. 13% of alumni visiting your website, their last gift was last year, but they have not given this year. If we go back, you can see 17, 16, 15, and 14 prior. You can see your lapse segments. and then we can see breakouts by non-donors. It's sort of interesting to note that 20% of alumni who are actively engaged with the institution online are true non-donors. They've never given to the institution. But then if we add up all the rest, you can see another very significant, little more than 50% of alumni visiting your website have given to the institution at some point, but have not given this fiscal year. So again, as we talk about marketing automation and the ability to engage the audience when they're on your website, if we used the website to actively solicit renewals, so that fiscal year 18 population who hasn't given this year, we have the ability to increase alumni participation rate, the overall alumni participation rate, by 3%. If we looked at those lapsed donors, since that population is generally a bit larger, we have the ability to increase that by 9%. And then if we look at the non-donor population, if we were able to engage that entire non-donor population, we would be able to increase alumni participation rate by 4%. So a pretty significant opportunity to engage the entire alumni base. Now, it's also important to note that if you've had a mentor, you've probably heard this in the field. The number one reason an alum does not give is that they were never asked. And so as we look at these populations, think about the ability to engage these alumni that may not be answering the phone. Maybe you're seeing some challenges in the number of attempts that it's taking to reach an alum via phone. Or maybe they're not responding to direct mail in the same way they used to because their direct mail piece just got lost in the pile. You now have a direct line to 20% of the entire alumni base that is actively engaging the institution today, and they're choosing to engage you. Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit about where alumni visit online?
Sure. Knowing where alumni visit is the key to understanding their affinity and also delivering that right message that Kevin has been talking about as they arrive on your site. A lot of folks think, okay, alumni are only going to alumni pages, but as you can see here, on the whole, 80% of the alumni visits were on non-advancement pages. That was a really key finding that when Kevin unearthed that in the data with our partners was really mind-blowing to me. That, you know, that means we need to adjust where we're trying to solicit to them, how we're trying to message to them, what we're trying to message to them about. So I think that this key here, looking and saying, okay, athletics plays a large portion of it. The main.edu sites are really the bulk majority of where your alumni are playing on your website. And one thing that I'll bring in our CEO here, one thing that he said to us is that he is interested in entrepreneurship at the university that he went to, but he keeps getting solicitations for athletics. And he's like, they don't understand me. And I think that's a big portion is if you understand where your particular alumni is visiting based off of their individual traffic history. Yeah, we know that most of them are on the athletic page, but he's not. He's, you know, a CEO of a company. So wouldn't you want to solicit to him with the right message about entrepreneurship and business, the things that he's interested in? So I think this is key of understanding both the overalls of your website, but also understanding that individual as well and where they're online, which Kevin will talk about here in a little bit. Another piece that we want to talk about is month by month, if you want to go ahead for me there. So look at that dropout rate there in the summer. So as it gets to summertime, we all know from being on a campus that it turns into a ghost town sometimes as all the students leave. But I wouldn't really expect, without looking at these figures, for website visits to plummet in the way that they are during those months. And what's interesting in this data is that correlating it to the end of a fiscal year, if you're sending out your end of year solicitation, say you have a June 30 fiscal year in close or something like that, and you're doing that in the summer when no one's going onto your website, it really might not be the right time. Or if you're trying to make, you know, calendar in solicitations, you know, December 30, where you're trying to take advantage of any type of, if it still exists, tax credits that are in place, and you know, trying to do those solicitations then, you know, 10% is still pretty strong, but why not push that up a few months into the September, October range, or hit people in the springtime as well, like in April is another high month. So understanding when the traffic is on your site is very important to planning out when you're going to be planning your appeals.
Amanda, I love that. And you touched on calendar year end and fiscal year end. I think those are both really important times. And I'll just mention December because calendar year end is such an important time. As we see December at 10% of all alumni behaviors are in December. If we went back and looked at the months just previous to that, December is actually the lowest month for alumni activity in that quarter. And so as you're planning a solicitation plan, and you're putting together your different channels, it very well may be that if you're choosing a digital medium and you're trying to leverage your website to engage that 20% of alumni, that your strategies need to begin in September and October to really leverage the channel to its fullest extent. Another interesting tidbit here would be if you were planning on a website conversion, or you were thinking about when you should update your website. Certainly May, June, and July would be a time when you could do it at the safest time. Now let's talk about day of the week. So day of the week, let's acknowledge that day of the week is going to have a slight skew based on the time at which an institution sends out their e-communications. So as you look at this data, just know that Tuesday at 19% is generally industry-wide. So whether it's higher ed or whether it's another industry, Tuesday and Thursday tend to be the most common time to be sending out emails. So just know that that Tuesday number is likely influenced by when the e-newsletter drops and is driving activity to campus, or when a social media push is sent out and is driving activity to the website on campus. So know that is likely in play there. But I think it's also important to notice that if we looked at Saturday and Sunday, that's only 24% of alumni activity. So over 75% of all alumni activity actually happens during the week. So if you're deciding when should we send an email and thinking that alumni might have some more time on the weekends, I know busy parents might be thinking that's crazy, but if you're not a busy parent, you might have a little bit more downtime on the weekend. Weekends generally tend not to be the strongest time for alumni to be active on your website. And likely that would translate into their activity with email, because if they were reading emails and clicking through your calls to action, they would be landing on your website. And so their most common time is generally during the week. Now, if we match that to alumni visits by the hour of the day, you will notice that a significant portion of alumni visits actually happen during the day. So more than half of all alumni visits to your website happen between the hours of 9 and 5. And so putting all of that data together, 75% of alumni visits are during the week, and half of alumni visits are between 9 and 5. You can see that alumni are generally checking your website while at work. And so you are creating a wonderful getaway for them. Maybe that is the alum who is spending the time to check on the athletic score. Or maybe that's an alum who is spending 2.5 minutes to come on and read an article. But alumni visits tend to happen during the day and during the week. Now, Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit about what type of medium people are using to visit the website?
Sure. So are they scrolling on their phone, or are they on their desktop when they're at work looking at the college site? That's what we're looking at here. What's interesting to me is the mobile and tablet piece of the pie here. I think that when Kevin started out talking about how we are assuming that a lot of our visits are from those who are tech savvy, but yet we're understanding that it's some of the older crowd as well. And, they're also using their mobile and tablet devices. So we need to make sure that we're taking into consideration that it's not just one subsection of the population that's on your site. And they are not just using their desktop or their mobile. It's really a good blend of each of those devices together. The desktop makes up 58%, mobile 31%, and tablet is 11%. So I think that's a really good thing to look at there, Kevin.
Amanda, the data geek in me will mention that 0.01% of visits happen on a television. And when I saw that, I was thinking if it was Willy Wonka and Wonka Vision, what that really is smart TVs. Um,
Yeah.
so alumni are 0.01% of all alumni visits actually happen on a smart television. I thought that was an interesting tidbit.
I should try that out this weekend.
That's right. And maybe that's streaming the athletics score, or maybe that's streaming the athletics game, right? All of those sorts of things.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe.
and what an amazing alum that would be who is taking the time to stream the basketball game on TV and invite his friends over and really rally around the institution. So maybe that's a data point that we will dive into further. But okay, so we get it. Alumni are visiting the website. Let's do a quick recap. 20% of all alumni visit the institution. They're actively engaged with the institution. We've got a great new medium to deliver the right message at the right time. We know that alumni are visiting throughout the week. They're generally visiting throughout the day. So now what are we going to do with this information to move the needle with alumni participation rates? And so it's probably worth revisiting the advantage that we're going to talk about today, and that's marketing automation. So again, I won't belabor the point, but what you'll see here is the ability to deliver a message on screen when alumni are visiting the institution's website. And this opens up an entirely new solicitation channel. So alumni visiting the website, you now have the ability to message them when, where, and how they choose to engage. And where that gets really exciting is that the right message at the right time when an alum is on your website makes alumni 40% more likely to stay connected and return to the site 33% sooner. So what that really means is an alum who sees the right message is 40% more likely to return, and they return 33% sooner. And so one of the really exciting things is the ability to truly create website relationships. And because we know that alumni relationships, most of the time, if we're going to send out a communication piece, whether it be through print or whether it be a phone call, the cost of those communication pieces is generally enough that anytime we reach out in those mediums, we're going to deliver a solicitation. So we do thank you calls via phonathon, but the vast majority of phonathon, if you're still conducting a full phonathon, is done to solicit a gift. The vast majority of direct mail communications are done to solicit gifts. But because digital is in a space where the cost of delivering a digital impression is a fraction of the cost, we can actually start to deliver relationships that are digitally based and based on the right message to the right alum at the right time. And the value of creating that cycle, so the value of meaningful messaging and then the return visit and then meaningful message and a return visit, that value actually builds a relationship which directly correlates to an alum's likelihood to give this fiscal year. So if you haven't seen this on the website, I'd encourage you to go read the entire story. But what the chart that you see in front of you, along the bottom, we document the number of visits that an alum has had to the website. And the small bubbles above that are the corresponding participation rates. Now, it's important to note that overall participation rate there is 11%. But if an alum shows up just one time, they become 4 times more likely to give. Now, if an alum shows up a second time, you'll notice that they're increasingly more likely to give. But if we can get that alum to show up for a third, fourth, or fifth time, then that alum follows that trend line. That's actually a mathematically drawn linear regression. Excuse me.
Oh,
That's
is that
actually
our nerdiness right there?
yes, I get so excited that I talk so fast. Let me get a sip of water. Okay, so that is a mathematically drawn linear regression that is going to correlate the relationship between online activity, and likelihood to give this year. Amanda, I will let you give me a break, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the lifetime value of building these relationships.
Sure, I'll give you a breather there. So by building relationships that deliver for philanthropy, we begin to build relationship with true affinity with the institution. And this affinity is critical to draw alumni closer as other nonprofits compete for the philanthropic dollar. So looking at the chart you have in front of me, this is the average lifetime giving affinity score. Capture has a proprietary affinity index, the Capture Affinity Index, which is computated based off of online behaviors with your website, your .edu website. And this is what we're finding here, is that the affinity website is scaled from 1 to 100. So if you see like on the left side, 1 to 50 and then 51 to 74 and 75 plus, what that's showing is as their affinity increases to the upper echelon of our affinity index, so does their correlated giving amount.
That's right.
So I think that's a really big thing, is like the more they're on your website, the higher likelihood they are to be giving you money as well.
That's exactly right. So, you know, Amanda, when we talk about the relationship between the activity that an alum has on their website and their ability to give this year, you see that increases. And to your point, as we continue to build that relationship over time, their lifetime value continues to build. So thank you for giving me a break there. But I think that's a really important point, is that we're not just simply delivering solicitations. We're not simply just asking somebody to attend an event. We're actually building relationships by delivering the right message at the right time. And oftentimes the right message is not a solicitation. Oftentimes the right message is telling an alum in Phoenix, Arizona that the president's going to be in town and please come to that event. Or oftentimes it's telling an alum in Naples, Florida that we're having an event at the yacht club and to please come to that event. And by delivering that message, we're able to develop a relationship with that alum. And that relationship then creates a lifetime affinity, which translates to a much higher lifetime value to the institution. So I think great points all around on the ability to give, or the likelihood to give to the campaign this year, but also the likelihood to continue to give to the campaign and build lifelong relationships.
So I feel like we've been hiding something that you're starting to uncover recently, as we've been talking about annual, and now we're moving to lifetime. And this is really beginning to show that not only are you able to identify who can contribute this year to your annual fund, but also who are your major gift donors and your planned giving donors. So I think that's the one thing that's coming out as you're speaking here today, Kevin, is that it's not just one subsection. And by identifying who is online, yes, it can help you with your annual fund and your phone-a-thon and those types of activities, but it's also showing you some of your major gift officer or major gifts prospects who you may not even have assigned to a portfolio, so that then their major gift officer could then be reassigned back to their portfolio to make an outreach to them to make a gift that year or as a planned gift. So I think that that's a really big topic that you're starting to key in on that shows an additional value to using your website.
It's almost like we planned it that way, Amanda. So yes, you're exactly right. So this is a tremendous marketing automation. The ability to deliver on-screen messaging is so important to deliver that message in real time. But in the same way that we're tracking alumni behaviors, we are also, or we're delivering the right message, we're tracking alumni behaviors. So Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit about gift officer outreach?
Sure. So this is using standard affinity practices for your gift officer outreach is only 99% effective. So look at that little bitty skimpy bar graph to the left there. That's those who have accepted a visit. So obviously those working in this space are very good at handling the rejection call that you get. But what we want to be able to do is push that needle higher so that you have more responsiveness, because you're placing the call to the right person who's actually interested in speaking with you. The same marketing automation code that allows you to display the on-screen content is identifying major and leadership and planned giving prospects actively on your website. So while you're delivering this annual giving message, you're able to put an end to these blind discovery calls so that you can help out your friends in the major and gift planning space as well. So this is one thing that we're definitely very passionate about at Capture, is to be able to really put some intelligence behind who you're making outreach to, both with your phone calls, with your digital, with your print mail, et cetera, being able to scale. So this right here, this is Amy. And Amy, she graduated in 1990. Her last gift date was in 2013, and her lifetime giving is less than $2,500. So looking at Amy, you would think, okay, well, she's not really contributing anymore. She hasn't given us much money, and she's essentially not that interested in us. So, I mean, would you put her on your plan giving radar? I don't think that I would. But if we look at the other information about Amy that we can see by tracking her through marketing automation, she is all over your plan giving and alumni pages. So you can see on day 1 through day 30 that she's like researching how to do an IRA charitable rollover. She's downloading resources on plan giving. And all of those things should be flags and indicators that Amy is actively looking to find somewhere to make a donation to as a planned gift.
That's right, Amanda. And I love, I'll point out one other insight from that slide. So that's only her behavior over 30 days. So as she continued to browse, and you may be sending her a annual giving solicitation or delivering a annual giving message to her on the website, Amy is actually researching student scholarships. And so your friends in Plan Giving can now use the information that marketing automation provides to reach out to her directly about student scholarships. And so one of our favorite conversations is actually, how do we put an end to blind discovery calls? And how do we make those calls even more effective? Because here's what we know right now. We know that 85% of visitors to the Plan Giving page do not have a plan gift documented. And so the inverse of that is also true. 15% of visitors to the Plan Giving page do have a plan give documented. Why are they back on the Plan Giving page? What are they looking at? Should we be reaching out to them? Is there a reason that they might be looking to expand it? Are they considering revoking their plan gift? Those are all things that the Plan Giving officer needs to be aware of. But those 85% of visitors who are actively looking at resources on the Plan Giving page, why are we not following up directly with those individuals? And so if you look at the larger box on the right, almost 80% of visitors to the Plan Giving page are currently unassigned, they have never been assigned, and they have never been formally qualified or disqualified. And so for any of our Plan Giving officers listening, or for anyone who is in the annual giving space, and you're seeing this tool as a tremendous opportunity to engage alumni visiting your website, know that this tool is also going to identify some top prospects for your friends in Plan Giving. Of alumni who are actively engaging our plan giving tools, may not be reaching out to schedule time with the institution, but we now know the time at which the plan giving conversation is being had within a household, which is very, very, very important. One other note, in the bottom left, you'll see that 46% of visitors would not qualify for major gift officer outreach. For any institution who is using frontline major gift officers to have visits and then report back to a vice president or maybe a plan giving officer about interest in a plan gift, know that that strategy would miss about half of the visitors who are actively looking at resources on your plan giving page. So just sort of an interesting note about capacity metrics and about the way that gift officers are being assigned for plan giving outreach. One other note on plan giving, we know that based on visitors to that plan giving site, I promised this was going to be data heavy, and so I hope we're delivering on that. We know that more than half of alumni who are visiting the Plan Giving site actually live out of state, but that concentrations are rather dispersed. So it's not as if all of your Plan Giving prospects or Plan Giving visitors are calling in from Phoenix, Arizona, or Naples, Florida, that we mentioned earlier. Alumni are dispersed all over the country, and they are individually looking at resources on the Plan Giving page. And so it may be that you've got a prospect who lives in Las Cruces, New Mexico, that you have that is not on your radar, and you do not have plans to be in Las Cruces, New Mexico, so we would never surface that prospect. But by monitoring the website, we're able to identify that this high capacity individual is actively looking at Plan Giving materials and then reach out as a meaningful resource in that process. So just know that your website is actively engaging alumni across the country. Now, we talked about Plan Giving. Let's talk about major gift prospects. And it looks like our slide is not coming through right there. But I will tell you that half of all major gift prospects have chosen an online relationship with the institution. And so I think the important note there is let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning and note that if you remember the grad years that were dispersed, you'll remember that half of alumni who graduated or were tracking online graduated before 1980. And the value there is that capacity tends to aggregate in older alumni. And so for those of you tuning in for the first time, know that this is a tremendous tool to reach your major gift population as well, because older alumni, since they are actively engaged on the website, we're able to identify over half of the entire major gift population, track them in real time, and then report out their behaviors to the appropriate gift officer. And so marketing automation is going to give you the ability to develop that relationship that not only makes their lifetime value stronger to the institution, but that it also creates the right engagement opportunities for individual personalized visits from a major gift officer. And let's talk about what one of those individual opportunities looks like. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute. Amanda knows this is hard for me. I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let everyone read a little bit about Matt. Okay, so that's as long as I can be quiet. So that's a great example of some of the insights that are gained when marketing automation is used to track behaviors. And so if we were going to bring this full circle, before I go to sort of our ending slide here, if we were going to bring this full circle, the real value of the website in today's advancement office is the ability to engage 1 in 5 alumni who is actively engaged with the institution today online. And those alumni are visiting consistently throughout the year, except in May, June, and July. We know that's when they drop. Those alumni are visiting during the day. Those alumni are visiting during the week. But the truth is those alumni are visiting all the time. And so we have trained our alumni to engage the institution online for just about every need that they have. And marketing automation now allows you to leverage those visits, open an entirely new solicitation channel to engage those alumni when, where, and how they engage the institution today. It also allows us to build those relationships that develop philanthropy. So the messaging that's delivered on the website oftentimes is not a solicitation. Oftentimes it's making sure an alum knows about a meaningful resource that they would like to use to connect with the institution. And that connection builds relationships that build the lifetime value of that donor to the institution. Now, at the same time, marketing automation is going to be tracking those behaviors and aggregating all of that information to deliver to the right major or planned giving officer. And knowing that only 9% of major gift officer outreach is actually focused on alumni who take a visit, it's really important to know that this tool that is so successful in the annual giving space also allows you to create the insights to make your planned giving and major gift colleagues that much more effective to be able to reach out to alumni and end blind discovery calls forever. So thank you for reading a little bit about Matt. Those are the some of the great insights that your colleagues in major gifts will see. And with that, I'll turn it over to an ending slide. But also that's probably a good point for us to tee up some questions.
Thank you, Kevin. We're now going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions to the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Okay, now let me see real quick. We've got our first one. One second. All right, Kevin. Let's see. It says, Kevin, Google Analytics tells us that our website traffic is low. What should we do to increase it? We have considered digital advertising. Does this play into these stats?
So I love that question. Sorry, I had it on mute here. For those of you tuning in, know that Lisha and I are in the same office, and we were trying to avoid that horrible echo that happens when other two people are logged into the same office. So yes, when it comes to website activity, I love that question. So if 1 in 5 alumni is active with the institution's website, how do we increase that number, and how do we drive traffic to that? And digital engagement is really the method that is used for that. For our colleagues who are tuning in the annual giving space, the ability to deliver social media ads if you're not doing that currently, and delivering the right message on Facebook that then links back to the article on the website so that those behaviors can be tracked, is a really, really important aspect of integrating marketing automation and a website in the advancement office today. The other aspect that more and more institutions are getting into is the space of true digital ads. If that's not a familiar term, think about when you're on ESPN, or when you're navigating the World Wide Web in general, and you receive a banner ad in the top right corner of the screen, maybe it's on the right side of the screen, and it's encouraging you to maybe purchase a product. Maybe you left something in your cart at your favorite retailer, and that shows up in the corner of your screen. That's a fairly common practice in the commercial space, and it's becoming more and more common in the advancement space, which is the ability to deliver the university's message through those same channels. One of the ways that we've seen that very successfully utilized is in the Day of Giving space. And so we can now use digital ads to reach alumni who are not on the institution's website. They are out navigating the World Wide Web, and we can inform them that the Day of Giving is next week, and click here to learn more, or to mark your calendars, or drive awareness and drive activity prior to the Day of Giving, to the actual Day of Giving itself. And that is a very successful strategy that we've implemented for partners who are trying to reach those alumni who, quite frankly, maybe they're not part of the 1 in 5 alumni who are actively engaged online or actively engaged on the website. But we do know that alumni are online. So let's meet them where they are today and then drive that traffic back to the institution's website.
All right, great answer. Another question that we have is, our website only tracks page views and not individual visitors. What are the best ways to determine what pages specific alumni donors are visiting?
The best strategies to determine page views that specific alumni are visiting. So if you've got marketing automation, one of the more important things is to make sure that your marketing automation code is displayed across the entire institution's website. So that way, as Amanda pointed out earlier, 80% of alumni behaviors are actually not on advancement pages. And so ensuring that your marketing automation is tracking alumni everywhere that they go will give you visibility to page visits and page behaviors that are really, really important to identify those individual points of affinity and then create those custom communications. One of the aspects that we covered today is the ability to engage alumni while they're engaged on the website. But true marketing automation not only tracks on every page and displays messaging on every page, but it has the ability to deliver custom triggered follow-up communications. The ability to deliver a message 24 hours or maybe 48 hours after an alum views a page on our website is a really important aspect of being able to create repeat visits and deliver meaningful messages that alumni are in tune with today. So I would say if you're looking to better understand where alumni are visiting on your website, and the way that we pulled that data and the way that we monitor that for our partners is we make sure that that tracking code tracks across the entire institution's website. And as alumni are identified, which if you are new to marketing automation or would like to know more about how alumni are actually identified on the website, we probably don't have time to cover it today. We certainly don't have it in the slide deck, but we would be happy to follow up with you to talk a little bit about how are we identifying alumni on the institution's website? How do we know that that's an alum that's visiting the athletics page versus a student who may be visiting the same athletics page? If that's a question that you have, we would love to answer that. But marketing automation can can really differentiate between those multiple populations. I hope I answered your question. Make sure that the code is everywhere on the website. But if that does not answer your question, please follow up with me afterwards, and I'll be happy to give you more information.
All right. It looks like our final questions are in regards to receiving the slide deck or a copy of the presentation. I just wanted to let everyone know you will receive a follow-up email within 48 hours with a link to view the recording of today's webinar. Once again, thank you, Kevin and Amanda, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Kevin or Amanda directly. And on behalf of Capture Higher Ed and our presenters, thank you for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.